I did get into an argument that I later apologized for, and then as an adult realized I was completely fucking right in regards to my social studies teacher, who I do love. Shout out to him. He's a good guy, but he also is who he is. Uh, and I made a statement in regards to uh, uh, not to do Impression Olympics, but we were talking about historic racism and systemic issues, right, in different ethnic
Mhm.
groups. And
Hmm.
I made a comment about like uh, Black people historically have been at the bottom of that food chain forever.
Mhm.
Not the absolute bottom, because you could argue about the plight of Native people, obviously. But that wasn't what he was debating. He was like, well, I'm Italian and my grandma really went
Oh.
through it in New York. Um, which I immediately accepted. I was like, damn, I guess I'm the racist because I forgot Italians are also as oppressed as Black people historically. I'm gonna apologize. And then I went home to my Haitian mother,
Did
who
you know that
reminded me that not that literal same decade, my grandma was also immigrating in New York and had a very specific experience, even from
Mhm.
a legal standpoint. So we're not actually gonna have that conversation at home.
Mm,
Anyway.
Yeah. No, I mean, I have my beef with the Irish version of that, being Irish. I'm always like, look, any Irish person is like, oh, but like the Irish were like indentured servants, so like like we were slaves, so like like why does everyone make a big deal about this? Like, hey, you know what you could do instead of all of that, what you're doing, you could just have solidarity with other oppressed people. You could just be like, hey, fucked up shit happened to us, fucked up shit's happening to these people, fucked up shit happened to those people, and you could just be chill. But instead, you're like, white people, notice me, please. Let me be American, please. Look how friendly we are. We can be totally useful and downplaying the problems that you've done to other people. We could be totally useful. And I'm like, that's some pick me ass
Not just
behavior.
that.
That's some plastic patty ass shit.
All I'm saying is, uh, whenever Irish folks in the U.S. Culturally mingled with Black people, some really cool shit happened.
Oh yeah.
Like,
yeah.
have y'all seen tap dancing? Shit.
I mean, also just even still, like that movie Sinners is apparently awesome. I haven't seen it yet, but like,
Oh yeah, I've heard many good things.
but it's literally another fucking fusion of like blackness and Irish culture, and it's like, let's just keep doing it. Apparently, a lot of Black people now in America are starting to fuck with the like Rocky Road to Dublin, and I'm like, yes, please start listening to like Irish music, especially rebel music. Like you'll have a great time. Music that's like, you know what, I won't say it. I was gonna say some stuff, but I won't.
I got
The Irish,
plans
I
that
the
I
Irish have
cannot
famously
share
had
with you right now because the haters will
the Ir-
sabotage me.
yeah, the Irish have
you gotta move in
famously had
silence.
ways. The Irish have famously had ways of dealing with fucked up power structures that anyone who is in an oppressive situation should maybe just look into.
Yeah,
Noted.
interesting, historical case study.
Mm,
Yeah,
a
but
lovely
quite,
hypothetical.
yeah, quite the list of factoids.
Mm.
Expert car parkers. The Irish Republican Valet Service, top notch.
Chef's kiss. Moi. So, everybody, how we doing? Who are you?
Good. But
I
who
woke
are
up
any of
at
us?
5 a.m.
Yeah, I
Sorry, I
woke.
went to sleep at 5 a.m.
Oh,
Well, yeah, but
Jesus.
you're in like a different time zone. I don't even know what that is. I woke up also at like 5 a.m. And then I did a 9 hour stream, and now I'm here. So I'm Celtic, he, him, Irish dude, um, and like general nerd. There you go. That
Yeah,
works.
And you
you
are.
are that.
Names and pronouns, buddy. This is a
God,
pronoun gate checkpoint.
Mhm.
I just told you I went to bed at 5 a.m., homie.
Yeah, but now you're awake at not 5 a.m.
Oh,
Boom, boom, boom.
Jesus. No, I'm Jay. My pronouns are he, him. Maybe he,
Mhm,
they. We'll see what happens. I'll update you.
mhm.
Um, and I am
Stay
currently
tuned.
in a yeah. Stay tuned. I'm in a fight to the death to convince people that web accessibility is a thing that actually matters.
Fighting the good fight.
uh,
And I am Jelly Like Jam, uh, doer of things on the internet occasionally. And this is Esso Technica, the only tech history podcast on these interwebs where all co hosts have the N word pass.
I
wait,
do not.
wait. I thought we said we were gonna make a button for him.
So we can say
We
it
need
by
a
proxy.
soundboard.
I, you're giving too much power to it. I am still okay geographically in Europe, right? And I'm of the could hide in a beige wallpaper section complexion. It's too much
I,
power.
it's okay. I don't
You see, the
mind.
beauty
Like you
is
just
that
can't
he has
press
it
it
and he doesn't
yourself.
use it.
Mm, mm. I like
So
that
I have
idea
the
better.
taste. I have the taste, than to just not use
No,
it.
we need to do we can do the Catholic approach, right? Like I need to introduce temptation into you so you can
Hmm.
prove your goodness to me.
Yeah, yeah, it's reasonable.
So yeah, today we're talking about
Uh,
electricity. We got this pretty sick photo of Ben Franklin like fighting Zeus,
mhm.
but he also has like Wolverine claws that like shoot electricity, which I mean, it it goes
Mhm.
kind of hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I will say my only critique. I like when if we're going to like show artwork of fictional figures. I like when
Hmm.
they take some artistic liberties instead of like just being slaves to realism.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And so I think like their attempts to just depict actual events in paintings like this is like always kind of like take some creative liberties. Put something cool in here. Maybe a cat or something. You don't have to just like paint it as it was when it happened.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All
I don't
right.
believe in the sanctity of art.
Neither do I. This is the only, well, I don't know, the only one that I know, the only Dadaist podcast on this side of the Mississippi.
Is that how we are?
Oh
We
yeah.
Taoist? I believe.
So we're Taoists?
Yeah, we just need to do a cut up of the podcast. When we're done, we just get the editor to like cut into like 1,000 pieces, and then just assemble them at random. And it's like you can't tell what sentence was meant to go where, and you know what? It works in every orientation. Every time you hit play, the entire podcast is constructed at random for just you, one singular listening.
I can't wait.
Hmm.
All right, so we do have some news topics to cover.
Oh, let's
We
go.
Jesus
still
Christ.
haven't wrote a news jingle, so pretend that's happening right now. All right, all right,
This
all
is the
right.
news jingle.
Mm.
Put it here. Put it here. This is the news. Uh,
All right.
the
R.I.P.
woke
R.
Pope. Hmm. Just killed the Pope. Vance gives Frank the Forbidden Za. Oh God, am I gonna have to talk about Francis? As said, I don't know if I don't know if it's gonna be in the preamble for the podcast. But I spent fucking 23 hours of my life in one sitting talking about every single Pope, and I had to finish on this one because he came last. Um, yeah, he wasn't that woke. That's my critique. That's my
Yeah,
critique. Yeah.
I
yeah.
disagree with you, and it's okay.
What do you? Okay, you tell me what you disagree, and then I'll pull out my trump card and win the argument. Go ahead.
Oh, okay. No, 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 no. Here's the thing, and I need you to know, I cannot argue from a place of facts and logic. I've
Hmm.
seen the proof of the live stream. All right.
Hmm.
I think that the thing that makes the Pope woke is not his own intrinsic wokeness. It is the perception in the public sphere of his wokeness that sort of had to force a lot of Catholics to like have more opinions on certain things.
So
And
you're
this is
leaning
only
on.
speaking.
You're
hold
leaning
on.
on trickle down
Mhm.
wokenomics.
Yeah. So, and I like not everything
Okay.
trickles down, but I think when you have when you know a big god Dada, right? Like that's kind of part of his job is to like shift the vibes in certain directions, and my very Catholic Haitian grandmother, we love her. Um, Unbeknownst to me during this Pope segment, became really chill about the idea of gay people just existing and being married. And I don't know who taught her that. And it
Hmm.
was apparently to such a degree that, and I might be misremembering this, but during part of the trickle down woke stream that somehow entered her presidents, she just sort of got a little more disconnected from her own local Catholic church and questioning their authority in regards to disagreeing with the Pope.
Hmm.
Okay.
So my argument here is, regardless of his actual wokeness, his the perception of wokeness that begged the question for many people, especially older Catholics, in regards to issues, especially queer issues, makes him woker than those of the past.
Okay, and my counter, which I understand is more of a focus on the Francis, and it actually does not work for this wokenomics that you're so slightly aside.
Hmm.
But yeah, my country had Magdalene laundries where women were forced to do slavery, and he was asked to pay those women for their unpaid labor. He did not, and he also didn't release the documents so like they could all reconnect with their families and such. So covered up the abuses of the church against women and failed to make reparations to slaves. When directly asked about it, he came to Ireland, did nothing about it. So it's like, hey, I get it.
Well,
He's good. He's good on some
well, it's
issues,
about
but
economics, you see. You
yeah.
see,
I'm
like
sorry.
he was the woke excellence pope. He was the he was woke pope telling you to. He said instead of me giving you a
Mhm.
handout, I'm gonna tell y'all to create an LLC and do your own laundries.
Yeah, we needed to pull ourselves up by the Pope straps.
I need us to one day circle back. It's not going to be today to the phrase Pope straps and elaborate.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense.
When I hear pope strap, to be honest, I think of like a pope with guns.
Oh,
Y'all can self-incriminate
Oh,
as you
oh,
please.
wait.
I was thinking
Oh,
Pope with a strap on.
yeah, me too.
Yeah, like the
Yep,
Papal Pumper 9000.
yep.
Yeah, like I think it should be
Can
shaped like his hat.
y'all got that.
Like
We're go-
I think you could mix holy water with. Anyway, so
there goes the
Keep
Catholic
digging.
Church.
Let's go.
There goes the Catholic Church sponsor.
We're almost to hell. Come on, let's keep digging.
Yeah.
I think God loves me and I'm his favorite son, and no one can take that away from me, especially not the Pope strap.
I think me and God keep our distance.
Hmm.
Like it's like a respect. Like it's like, do you ever have like a dog on your street that like when you walk by they always bark at everyone else, but they just mean dog you and you stare at them and you're like they don't bark at you, you don't bark at them. It's just an understanding and you just carry on.
Hmm.
That's me.
All the dogs
God
literally are
respects you.
racist.
Well, I think God respects / fears me because because some dogs will piss on your letterbox and you piss on their letterbox and all of a sudden you go, okay, hold on,
Uh,
you know. I think I have
sure.
I will piss on God's letterbox approach to religion.
I just realized that letterbox is an actual word and not just a like movie sharing app.
Jelly, Jelly, please,
And that
Jelly, please.
that is the regionalification of language.
All right,
Remember
on to the next
Redbox?
one.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
The Atlantic
uh,
loses their greatest asset in the White House. So
yes.
Mike Waltz, he is the White House security advisor, and
Mm-hmm.
or at least is looking like gonna be was, and so like on the chopping block. They were waiting for for the first 100 days to start like cutting anybody so that like people didn't like think that there was any like instability within them or whatever. But this is months after this incident, but the one of the things that is like very frequently touted as the straw that broke the camel's back, because they didn't like him to begin with. He was already kind of like a never Trumper, and yeah, he's been opposed to Trump on like several different issues, and so yeah, one of the straws that broke the camel's back was an incident called Signalgate. So basically, he like in their like personal like White House Signal group chat, he accidentally added a journalist from The Atlantic. And so yeah,
Well, hold on, but there's a caveat to that which makes it important, like because it's very funny. So, in the functioning of a normal democracy, you're supposed to be of the people, by the people, for the people, all that malarkey, yeah. And that means to a certain degree, even if you're having private communications, they have to be on our record, and then one day, like, they will be released to the public to show that, oh, we behaved democratically, we had your interests, like, to allow people to see was it legal, or if somebody who gets affected by the regime wants to at one day appeal, there will be records to appeal against to show why things were done the way they were, and maybe remedy some situations if some people were hurt. Yeah. Anyway, we're doing all this in Signal means effectively we're burning all the documents. So back in the day, this is the equivalent of you go into the president's office and we're cramming all the papers into a shredder. But this, instead of cramming the papers into the shredder, they're just using shredder apps like Signal, where everything will be deleted once they're done, and that's it, right? Inviting a journalist in is not just that the journalist got inside information on this one particular conversation. It also
that
implies
conversation was happening,
and that other conversations probably also were happening, and we don't know how many and what scale of information deletion has happened. And I'm not even hearing many people even recognize that, like, you're supposed to be mad they're using Signal at all in this capacity for official business. Like,
yeah,
where's the records? Where's the facts? Where's the checks and balances? We have skips for this. Like,
the functional issue here is that like communications in the capacity of a perhaps head of state, security advisor, secretary of a major department, that communications made within that capacity have to be, like, they're not subject to like private security like concerns. Like, that is your acts as a public official, and as a public official, you are subject to different standards than a private citizen.
Yep. It's the nature of the office, and it's for all those real reasons. Like, if the president decides to do something and I go to jail for it, part of my eventual appeals and the defense is going to require access to those documents if the judge deems that that's required. They're like, okay, can I just see, look, even in a closed session, can I just see what's going on?
Bold of you to assume we care about due process at this point.
I am thinking of Eric Adams right now.
You evidently don't care about it because you're using the Signal. Like this is all part. Like, this is them not even caring about it after they're ousted from power. They're like, no. Let's cause as many problems as possible. But it is just worth noting. You're going to be cleaning up the toxic waste of this shit for years.
Oh boy! All right.
Also, I will say, at first I did read this headline as the ocean, and I was wondering which member of the Oval Office was like doing big sea things.
No, from Atlantis. Okay, homie surfaced, and they cried.
The Atlantis episode is in a few months.
Well, I was thinking, like, if whichever one is working currently in the fucking Who looks after your environment issues?
The EPA.
no one right
EPA,
now.
yeah.
Well,
Whoever's in
yeah,
charge of
nobody.
whoever's
Sorry, no.
whoever's allegedly in charge of the EPA, that's the Atlantic's biggest asset because they believe in a big Atlantic. They're raising the sea levels. Soon there will be so much Atlantic.
Oh my
That's the like the
You see,
head
America
of the
is just run by Big Atlantic.
yeah, the head of the the head of the EPA at this point is leading the invasion force for the Atlantic Ocean as it claims more and more of the land.
Hold on. New
We
York
are
New
going
York
to
City will
colonize
actually
those
be
fish.
so sick.
New York
Like
City
when
will
everybody's
be
traveling between like the tops of building between gondolas.
yeah, well, New York City will be the Istanbul of Atlantis. All right, you mentioned Eric Adams. I have to go for that. Anybody who gets that joke, that's like a joke for like probably 5 incredibly
it is the
brain.
I got
Islamabad.
it. I got it. I know Eric. He's in my backyard. I don't mind doxing myself in that way. It's a very big area.
Yeah, vaguely aware of New York City is like, oh, we've whittled it down to one of 20 million people.
I'm not even in New York City either. I am just in proximity to it, which makes it even better.
Mm-hmm.
That's the best way to experience New York City, via proximity and occasional train ride into Manhattan if you're up for a good time.
Yeah.
All right. So today we're here to talk about electricity.
Oh shit.
All right.
You know, I was
Kinda hot.
recently reading a book by Nathaniel Fowler from 1913. It's a banger. I call it 1,000 Things Worth Knowing, and the section on electricity is actually very funny. It describes it as just nobody really knows what it is, which I think is like great when you're reading an educational resource. And it's like we don't really know what it is. Just vibes wise, it's good. I just think the conception of what we understood about electricity in fucking 1913 is very amusing. Let me have a look here. I have it. I'm actually pulling up a book from 1913. This peculiar and all-powerful energy has never been analyzed, and no one knows exactly what it is. It is produced by friction, either mechanically or by chemicals. It is transmitted through wires or other metallic conductors, and electricity is usually produced mechanically by what is known as the dynamo, but can be made chemically by the use of galvanic batteries. The former, however, is much more economical. Electricity and magnetism are closely allied, and yet they are commercially different. That's it. That's the end of the section in this book. That's all they knew.
I'm sorry, that felt more like a vibes-based read of electricity than a meaningful descriptor in any capacity. And I want to keep up that energy with all sciences from now on.
Oh, also, by the way, just a note for posterity. It's kind of storming where I am, so if I happen to just cut out
Okay.
a lost
It was a
episode,
dark and stormy night. Yeah. Lost media.
appropriate for a night about electricity.
Yeah. Speaks volumes to what electricity really is. All right. So anyway, carry on. Carry on with your intro. Sorry to have interrupted with my 1913 book.
So, so yeah, just a little bit of electrical prehistory. So, the earliest recorded observation of electricity was, like, recorded observation of electricity was, surprise, surprise. Any guesses?
The Archimedes.
Ancient Egypt. It's always ancient Egypt.
I was gonna guess it was the fucking Greeks. Go ahead.
So yeah, ancient Egypt in like a 2750 BC. And so like in the like halls of like etched embossed figures and like whatever, the temple carvings that they do, like you'll find drawings of hold on. Next slide.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
Oh,
They are
there
out
we
of
go.
order. So,
Beautiful.
yeah, in
Like,
the
wow,
water
Wes, this
below that guy.
guy's got such a raging hard on.
He is pitching a tent like mad.
Yeah, like that's like some, that's a concerning.
Impressive Schmeat.
Yeah.
oh my God! Isn't that what Sheets calls the meat slabs?
Oh, oh.
Mm,
I hope not. Also,
I don't know. I worked
Celtic.
there for 24 hours.
mm-hmm.
If you're oh sick, but yeah, if you're ever in the United States, yeah, you
Mm-hmm.
gotta and you happen to be in the Mid Atlantic region, you gotta make at
Mm-hmm.
least one trip to Sheets for like working
Yeah.
class solidarity.
I don't think I fully understand what a sheets is.
And if anyone
It's
tells you to go to Wawa, you kill them on site.
it is Wawa is Sheets that thinks it has money. It is bourgeois
Oh.
Sheets.
Exactly.
All I know about Wawa is from a Bloodhound Gang song, which is "Do you even know what a Wawa is?" And at the time, I didn't. I had to Google it. Still, kind of don't.
And so
It's okay.
I suppose like it's do y'all have Tesco in Ireland?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I
Just
guess it's kind of like
Tesco's.
Tesco,
Okay.
where it's
Okay.
like gas station, but also like has like a kitchen that does like like made to order food. Except like Sheets does like the most like obscene concoctions of like
Mm-hmm.
American Tex-Mex white trash food,
Nice.
and it is actually a consistent banger.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, back to Fish Dude. So
Mm-hmm.
the first known depiction, 2750 BCE, in the water below him, you see like some species of the like electric catfish of like the Nile. Yeah, somewhere down here. I
Like,
didn't bother looking up which one it was. Sorry.
oh, they had electric catfish. E-catfish now, they have a totally different energy. Sorry, I had to say it.
I
You said
hope
the
you feel
words.
proud of yourself.
I do, but it's an unfortunate pride.
In later millennia, like Greek physicians would occasionally treat ailments such as gout and headache and
Mm-hmm.
such with the shock from from an electric fish. Like for like
Mm-hmm.
headaches, I don't have the original document, but basically he I forget if it was Hippocrates. He prescribed like for a headache, you to just like press an electric eel against your forehead for like 30 seconds. And because eels discharge, like
Mm-hmm.
they can only give up so much current. And so like he recommended just having like a bucket full of ready to go eels on standby to like rotate, which I think is fantastic.
I couldn't
Yeah.
imagine it worked very well.
Uh, I'm not sure. Oh
They
yeah, also
do
with gout,
use
same thing.
electrical shock therapy for
Mm-hmm.
certain migraine conditions, if I remember correctly. So that
Interesting.
might have actually helped certain people.
So,
Huh.
so he had a decent batting average of maybe not completely fucking useless,
And they also
but
tried.
Maybe.
We also have recorded instances of them trying to cure paralysis with electricity. So
Oh.
mm,
of course they were unsuccessful. So it's like
yeah.
like pressing an electric eel up against a paralyzed guy's leg, isn't gonna do much. However, like we gotta give credit to our ancestors as a like human species. Like
Mm,
we like a recurring theme that I like bringing up throughout like historical discussions is that like our ancestors, on average, were about as smart as we are.
Yeah.
Yes.
That is one of the reasons I always push back. It comes up multiple times on my stream because people love bullying the British, which, usually is fine, except it puts me in a position every once in a while of having to defend the British. And this is one of those times where people will convince themselves that British people didn't bathe and that they would just dump their shit into the street. And I'm like, would you dump your shit into the street and then walk around in it, smelling it? They have noses.
Yeah.
Like, our ancestors are not that different than us. If you think they just all went around smelling really bad and, like, with their feet covered in literal human feces, you might be doing some sort of weird prejudice against the past. You might need to get that checked.
And it also, I'm not going to get fully in, we're not in the textile episode at this point in time. Oh, I wish. But
Hey,
it also
write it if you
completely
want.
ignores, I don't write shit, homie, but don't worry about it. Illiteracy's hot.
You think I can read, homie?
You think I look, I just chill. But it also completely ignores the fact that an entire garment system and culture around it was created to specifically address the bathing habits of the period, right? Like, it's not like you're walking around in your t-shirt and jeans and you strip it off your naked body like a beast man, okay? You have under things and layers, and those are washable. So even if you can't, like, fully submerge yourself every night, you can at the very least make sure your lovely under things are nice and ready to go for the next day. These people did, in fact, care about levels of hygiene, and it would also just be unfeasible to take a full bath every night if you are an average person in this scope of history.
Yeah. But but they, like, even the concept, oh no, they would just, like, be smelly and stuff. It's like they placed such an importance on smell that they thought filling, like, a beak with flowers would protect them from the plague. It's like they really
Miasma theory.
Yeah.
Yes.
So basically, miasma theory, for anybody who doesn't know, is...
Oh, don't worry. No, it's coming back. RFK is a miasmist.
Can I smell a candle and become less autistic?
Say psych right now, please.
I wish.
Have you checked your humors lately, Jelly?
No, no, don't check your own humors. That's gross. ChatGPT will do it for you. But no. To the best of my understanding, RFK has started to flirt with miasma theory. I'm sure he'll probably come back to the holy land of basic common sense, but that would go against his track record.
Okay, so miasma, for anybody who doesn't know, is the theory that, like, the smell of, like, bad things, of, like, rotting meat, of excrement, of like, dead things. The reason why that smells bad, smells bad, is because it causes disease, and the cause of the disease is that it smells bad. And so, like, miasma theory is basically that, like, the bad air is what infects you. And
yeah,
that like, it goes absolutely no further than that. Like, it has, like, some basis in that, like, the bad air is because, oftentimes, there's actually a Venn diagram of, like, stuff that smells bad and stuff that, like, can infect humans. And it has, like, significant portions where, like, either part, like, there's a lot of stuff that smells bad that doesn't infect humans. And there's a lot of stuff that infects humans that doesn't smell bad because they learn to infect humans and they mimic what we like. Anyway, but also like of that small section that like infects. So yeah, just it had like, you know, the right idea. Again, you know, they're kind of as smart as us, but like they just hadn't invented a microscope yet.
Well, not just that, it was also because they also believe that miasma itself could be like a physical thing, right? Like it's not just the smell as an abstract, but
Oh
the
yeah.
smell itself was the sickness and therefore could travel through the air, which did encourage some really good health practices that we ended up having to reinvent. Like, hey, having open windows in the places where you take care of sick people does help health outcomes out even outside of airborne disease, right? Giving people
Hmm.
fresh air or telling your like tuberculosis ridden wife we're going to the beach for the weekend isn't necessarily a bad thing.
You know,
Uh
reinventing the same thing over and over again is actually going to be a common theme in this podcast.
Oh, great. Well, I'm so
Yay.
glad miasma
Not this
theory is
particular
coming back
one, but
then.
as a whole.
I'm also
Okay,
glad miasma theory is
electricity.
coming back, so you could make that. You can make that
We're
point. You know.
reinventing miasma. God,
Yeah. I'm waiting for the ether to come back. I don't think we did. I
I
don't think we did the
honestly
ether
think
long enough.
ether. Yeah, it had a good run, but it just wasn't as long as it needed to be.
Yeah,
No.
and the only thing that the only thing that really held it back was just pesky reality, I guess. Like, you know, like if only reality was different, we could have had ether. It's a good
If
word.
only.
We should rename one of the like elemental, not elemental, but one of the principal particles, muons,
Hmm.
quarks, the leptons,
The
all of those.
ether.
Yeah, rename one of those to ether.
No, they would.
Isn't it?
Given the way that they function, they would probably like have to merge it with some other word into an unholy ethons.
Look. If we can have strange quarks, we can have ether. Come on. There is a place
Up
for it.
quark, down quark, charm quark. But we're nowhere near quarks. We're on electricity. We got to rein this back in.
Electricity.
Yeah.
So yeah, so it was widely known as early as 600 BCE that rubbing cloth with amber introduces a static-like charge in induces a static charge in the amber. This would allow people to attract light objects like feathers and strings and hairs. Thales of Miletus is regarded by many as the first Greek philosopher, is also known for being the first to try to describe electricity in an empirical manner. He postulated that amber becomes magnetic when rubbed with a cloth. He contrasted it with a material like magnetite, which didn't need to be rubbed. Again, I think
Mm.
like so close. Like
Yeah.
like
No, I mean, the conception of like the atom and that, like, you know, like the antiquity got a lot of things. If they could, here's the thing: if they could reason their way to something, they got decently close. If they at any point needed other sciences, evidence, large data gathering, computation power, or like industrial power to like build like telescopes or whatever, that's where they started tripping up. You know what I mean? Like it was like right
yeah.
where they got to the limits of what you could just vibe. But they were
Yeah.
great vibers.
So now for a little bit of a science lesson here, what's actually happening is that when you rub the amber with a piece of cloth, the amber tends to steal electrons away from the cloth, and this results in a mild negative charge. Oh wait, previous slide, because apparently they're out of order.
Hmm.
So yeah, this results in a mild negative charge in the amber, and it's worth
Hmm.
asking why does the amber steal electrons from the cloth and not the cloth steal electrons from the amber? And the answer is complicated and based on a particular, like properties of the material. But long story short, when you compare materials, there's usually going to be like a place where the electrons are going to be happier to be, and a bunch of really bored guys started rubbing a bunch of shit together and ranked them by how likely they were to steal electrons. And
As a guy, we do be rubbing shit.
Yeah.
dudes rock
Yeah, I get
Dudes
because
bored.
rock.
like
I
there
get bored.
is
I'll rub one out, maybe even two.
there is like a like unbroken thread between Dudes Rock and the Triboelectric series. It's
It, electricity is just dudes rock behavior.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, they rubbed a bunch of shit together and decided, realized, what stuff was more likely to steal electrons than what. And the result is that we now have the triboelectric series. So now this was before the discovery of the electron. So like ascribing positive or negative charges to either object was completely arbitrary. And so they ended up, doing the reverse of what it actually is today. So it's like uh, they assumed that like things flow from like positive to negative. Like the particles themselves carried a positive charge and they were like moving into the negative space when it's in reality the opposite. The electrons are what are flowing and they have a negative charge, so it goes from negative to positive. But yeah, uh, it's it's so like the thing about amber is that like it's not even very like likely to like steal electrons. It's just more likely to steal electrons than like any other material that a person like might encounter in Afro-Eurasia, because those are where we have the records. That's just the most likely material to steal electrons before we start getting into like purely refined metals and then like man-made substances like 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 petroleum based substances and like Teflon. So yeah, just all
Can
this and go ahead.
I just want to ask. Well, so we're doing some fake news though right now. I got to be honest, because
Hmm.
have you noticed this does not affirm the popular myth that it was Benjamin Franklin who invented electricity.
Yeah, where's Benji F?
Yeah, like this is stuff that is pre him, like the ancient Egypt.
Oh, trust me,
No,
we'll get to Benji.
Uh huh. Okay.
We
Okay.
got to we got to top we got to
Mm-hmm.
stop the train at Benji Station.
Mm-hmm.
So, however, first we must make a stop at oh, the Baghdad battery. So
Yeah.
first
Bag
we
that
gotta
dad.
Mm-hmm.
woo. So first we gotta explain. All right, so we gotta take the what is it? The ah I know the term.
Not Plato.
Socratic.
Not
The Socratic
Socratic.
approach. There we go.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, first we got to answer the question, what is a battery? Anybody feel like going up to bat?
A storage of potential energy for the purpose of providing energy to do work. That's probably not the best. I studied physics. I should have a better definition, but it's like it, that's probably fine. Is it?
Yeah, that absolutely works. So yeah,
Okay.
the way I was choosing to define it for the sake of today is just a way to store electrical energy, typically in the
That's
form
fair.
of chemical energy.
Yeah, well, yeah, I guess chemical. Okay, for my definition, I was like, chemicals not chemical energy is its own thing. It's like kinetic energy and potential. But like,
Yeah.
for simplicity, I was saying potential energy, sense of like,
Yeah, that does fit within the scope. Anytime you like put something under pressure or stuff more stuff into a space that
yeah,
wants to be in there, then you create potential energy.
yeah,
So
yeah. So
just
I
a
was using it in
clarification.
that way. Yeah, yeah. But yeah, no, I fucking did study physics. I just unfortunately
Yeah,
I
Celtic
hate
got big nerd
electricity.
points.
I just hate electricity though. I'm a math guy. Oh, anyway, carry on.
Okay, so the way you do this is with chemicals is by choosing a solution of like some salt or acid, and then you put in like two different kinds of metal.
Mm-hmm.
And so every element on the periodic table has something called electronegativity. And it's pretty much exactly the
Mm-hmm.
same thing that I was describing with the triboelectric effect, but on the atomic scale. Some atoms are
Yeah,
more likely
this
to steal electrons than others, and like others have more trouble holding on to them.
yeah, this is like close to something that I do like about the periodic table. So effectively, the closer something is to the right side of the periodic table, with caveats and but general vibe, yeah. The more willing it is to give, so the more willing it is to rip electrons. Sorry, rip electrons from anything else, yeah. So that's why fluoride right there, top right, very, very, very electronegative. Also, the smaller the atoms are, so the closer to the top, the more reactive they kind of are. Fluoride's right up there, top right, so it's very electronegative, very small. So the pull of its proton to like rip your fucking electrons, like that's why fluoride is really, really aggressive. Except for the things that are right on the right. So the actual far side right, those are all inert because they have
They have everything they want.
a complete. Yeah, they have a complete. The outer shell. Oh, if you ever see a drawing of orbitals, the outer shell is called the valence.
They have their family and their wife and their kids and their like their 2.5 kids and their Prius and their 3-bedroom home.
Yeah. The outside is like valence electrons, and if you have your full shell of valence electrons, it's 2 for hydrogen, and then like 8 for the rest. If you have your full shell, you basically don't want anything, and you're not willing to give anything. You're just inert. You don't react with anything. You're done. But then that brings you to the left side of things, where those guys they have 1 or 2. They don't have 8 either, so they're willing to fucking give. They do the opposite. So that's like so they don't take electrons. They're willing to just give an electron to almost anything, and those are very unstable bullshit, like francium, and they'll just explode.
And then like the logic is that like because their outer shell only has that like maybe like 1 or 2 extra electrons, they're very willing to give the. Yeah, they're willing to give them up because then they can drop that back down to like that last energy level where they had everything together.
Exactly. And they're all trying to get to a state of where they're stable and less reactive, which is when they have a complete outer shell. Which then you get into for anybody who wants to completely just nerd out and whatever, then you get into the whole like oh god, what's the term I'm thinking of? Isotopes. They get into isotopes where all that is rejected because that's basically entry level stuff, and it gets more complicated with all the variants of things that can exist. Anyway, yeah. Caveat.
Okay, so yeah, so to create a battery, what you do is you get a solution of ions, and ions are just charged atoms, and atoms with either a few too many or a few too electrons to be neutral. With like many acids and bases fit this capacity well by definition. It's what pH is. It's potential for hydrogen, which basically means like the likelihood of water to produce excess positive hydrogen ions, yada yada. Anything with a pH close to 0 or 14 has a big proclivity to produce charged atoms, but in like one will be more attractive to electrons than the other. That part's not really that important, but yeah, the two different metals. The two different metals. One will be more likely to attract the like extra electrons in the solution than the other, and so now you have like one that's like has a whole bunch of electrons and one that like doesn't have as many. And so like if you connect the two over the top, over the outside, you can like provide a shorter with metal with another conductor, you can provide a express path for electrons to travel from one piece of metal to the other. And so so what'll end up happening is that like they steal like a whole bunch of electrons from the electrolyte solution, and they'll just like funnel them through each other. So like capitalism is when you like connect the metals. Socialism is when you touch the tips and say now kiss. And anarchism is when you just make really good metal. So
I thought that's when the girls on Discord start. You know what? Never mind.
So congratulations.
That's a deep hit for my anarchitties out there.
I've just realized I was looking something up as a factoid for this just now. you're talking about pH, and at first I was going to say, that, well, the jump pH was developed by Heineken, which I'm incorrect. It was Carlsberg. I'm even more incorrect. It was not Carlsberg, the company as we know it, but Carlsberg Laboratory, which is an independent scientific research center that is founded by the founder of Carlsberg and is a specialist in science related to brewery. So it technically it was developed for the Carlsberg or a company by their own research laboratory, but it is just a department of like it is just its own like science thing. So technically, Carlsberg didn't invent it, but they made the conditions to invent the pH scale, just so they could brew alcohol. And the reason that I knew that fact is that it's actually a weird labor piece of history because this was a way to cut back on the like skill of their workforce because they didn't have to be as educated because they could just use a pH strip to check the work rather than having like an innate knowledge and skill. So it's a way of switching from like highly skilled labor of people who'd been working in brewery for years to a replicatable process of pH testing. I'd always hear that simplified to the to a brewing company invented the pH like thing, which there's a little bit of wiggle nuance.
Yeah, I mean, have you seen what farmers figured out without having that language in regards to crops and crop rotation dynamics? Gee.
Yeah, farmers were doing like evolution and genetic like engineering before we knew what genetic or evolution were.
Yeah. Sometimes you just gotta taste the soil and you know it's like a little too acidic.
You know, like there is kind of a joke amongst like archaeologists or geologists, both of them. Well, mostly archaeologists, I suppose. But like, if somebody wanted to like check like the type of soil they're working with, like that this is like sandstone, from what period? How do I tell the grit size of this? You just take a small pinch, you rub it between your teeth, and then you spit it out. And like your teeth are actually like full of a bunch of nerves and like very capable of like if you just like put enough sand in your mouth, you'll kind of learn to tell apart, all right, this is the coarse sand, this is about 100 grit, this is the fine sand, this is like I don't know, maybe like 1,000 grit.
I thought you were going to say like you can just like taste like yes, this is Danish dirt. I
don't know if it goes
it.
that far.
I'm a machine that takes in sand, outputs information.
Just like fucking epigenetic, like dirt tasting. Like you see, here's the thing: if you put some dirt in your mouth and you don't know where it's from, one of your ancestors dropped the ball because they didn't preload you with that information by putting other dirt in their mouth. But if they tasted the dirt in the past and you put it in your mouth, you can now taste the like retroactive cum memories to be like.
We could have instinctual dirt tasting. Oh wait, I suppose that's just called anemia, but.
Oh. Shaking my fist at evolutionary biologists once again.
For the joke, for anybody who may not have gotten it, is that like that actually is a common thread about like diagnosing people with anemia in early childhood, is if they have a proclivity for eating dirt.
I did.
Sick,
I do
nasty.
not have I was in fact
I suppose
just
that was something
strange
else.
Child.
I just ate paper.
Oh no, we figured it out eventually.
I just ate paper. I was a huge paper eater, and it's funny. I'm such a yapper these days. Like everybody I know, kind of like always comments on just how much I talk. But I did quite literally eat an entire dictionary as a child. People are always like,
Wow.
"Oh, what? It was like an insult in the '90s. Like, oh, what, you never shut up. What? You fucking eat a dictionary?" And I'm like, yes.
Honestly, I'm the same
Shows up to
way.
class. Sorry to
You
teach. I
also
ate my
ate a
homework.
dictionary.
Absolutely. Like I had an encyclopedia and I actually read it.
No, I'm not saying I read a dictionary. I'm saying I ripped the pages out of a dictionary, and I crammed them into my mouth and ate.
Oh, I suppose in the metaphorical sense is what I meant.
No, I literally.
Yeah, no.
Wait.
Homie, wait, I'm
say
sorry. Are you being real right now? Because
say psych
at
right
no
now.
point imply that this is like a metaphor or a bit.
No, it's not a metaphor. No, I quite
It's
literally
definitely
ate an entire
literal.
Say
dictionary.
psych right now.
I quite literally ate an entire dictionary and also like some wallpaper.
Wait, hold on. Sorry, did you guys have lead in your walls also, or
No. Our walls are
Okay, just making
hog.
sure.
Yeah, I
No,
got
no,
like
Making
brick.
sure.
that's all American, baby.
Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an all American brain rot. My walls probably just had like the ghosts of my ancestors.
Some of
Ireland's kind of
that's
definitely
the
haunted.
least.
Oh, okay, so congratulations. We're moving electrons. We've created current. Current is just moving electrons. So we got electrons moving. So now we can make them do stuff, right? And so
Ballpark.
now we got to talk about the Baghdad battery. So in popular discourse, what people
Forbidden
tend to
butt plug.
discuss, oh dear, the electric butt
flare,
plug.
no flared base.
Oh,
Forbidden.
you know what? Yeah.
I-
Do not
Yeah, no, you have to have a flared base.
do not insert the Baghdad battery. It's not safe.
You know, the thing is,
No.
the Baghdad battery has about 4 inches of insertable length. So it is very
During the whole-
manageable.
the whole thing is insertable.
So yeah, this
I'm
is
gonna take
about 4 to
notes
6.
for when I start making custom things. Anyway,
So I believe this was about 4 to 6 inches tall.
Oh,
And so,
I always
in
thought it was
popular
much bigger than that.
yeah, people tend, yeah, we're getting into the misconceptions, baby.
Okay.
So in popular discourse, when people tend to discuss the Baghdad battery, they tend to discuss like it as a group of jars, specifically as a group of 4. The only issue is that the one we know colloquially as the Baghdad battery was founded in, I have in my notes, Rabwa. There's a map of Baghdad, Baghdad, down in the lower right. I looked at it somewhere, at some point, but yeah, I'm forgetting where it is. But and then like 3 others were found across the Tigris River in a different settlement called Seleucia. And so like what you got is 4 small clay vessels, 3 of them containing a copper tube with a lead bottom, sometimes lead. I've seen reports that said lead, and then others that said a bitumen stopper on both sides. And bitumen is basically like kind of like sludge, kind of like asphalt. Like
Oh, okay.
so, like I've seen people also translate it as asphalt.
A binding agent.
Yeah,
okay.
and so yeah, the inside of some of these jars allegedly contained like traces of an acid, leading people to believe that this was an early form of galvanic cell. Some say that it was used to store papyrus. Some say that it was used to power electric lighting. See the Dendera light,
Some
which
say it was
really
used to charge flying saucers from the aliens that brought us here on a huge expedition to trap our souls here in a prison. Those people
oh
are
boy.
wrong. Yeah.
We'll do the invention of the pile in another episode.
We'll do the
which
invention of
is-
racism later.
which is which basically like everybody across the world like just came on the same idea that like if you build stuff like narrower at the top, you can build stuff really tall. And so that's why everybody has pyramids.
Are
And
you
yeah,
sure it's
well,
just not the
Except the
aliens
Celts.
taught the dumb people how to do things for the first time?
No, except the Celts. The Celts built mounds.
Mm.
Yeah,
so yeah.
we built hills like the Shire.
Now, some of the problems with this theory, like even the best recreations of this cell in modern scenarios could like barely manage like 1.1 volts of electric potential, which, like if you had a like perfectly modern light bulb that could like convert that efficiently into light, it could light it. However, like there's also questions of like, well, we're also using modern copper, so like how how good was the copper they were working with? Were they working with An al Nasir, or were they working with one of the many other Sumerian like copper merchants who actually had a good reputation and doesn't like live on in infamy through like one carving that just so happened to like be preserved?
Oh, by the way,
And
I
then
will say, on the bitumen, there's actually another word which I do know is more like colloquially, like some people like in certain regions would probably go, "Oh, I know what that is more." Yeah, it's pitch.
oh, pitch. Okay.
Yeah, it's the same thing as pitch, which does like a whole thing
Just
of
I
somebody
guess hydrocarbon sludge.
hydrocarbon sludge, incredibly viscous, takes a long time to like pour. Like it's a whole like very slow pouring.
Yeah, the
But
famous
yeah,
like pitch drop experiment.
that's what I'm
And
thinking of. I was trying to
so
think of how to introduce that concept. But anyway, go ahead.
with the Baghdad battery being used as an actual legit power source, you would actually have to have like a lot of them in order to like do any meaningful work. So like the whole like connection to the Dendera carving, where it's like people just say, oh, I should have included a picture of the Dendera carving, but basically that like there's this Egyptian carving on the wall of one of the temples, and there's like, oh, this thing looks like a light bulb, and there's like, yep. So these guys all the way over here in Baghdad in Iraq, these guys invented electricity, and then they gave it to Egypt, and then they had lights, and then also we don't have any records of the actual jars in Egypt, and so it's like it also raises the question of like, if they had actually developed, oh yeah, and then also they would have had to like continuously replace them as the like charge wears and they break, and all that good stuff, and so in order to keep things running. And so so if they had actually developed electrical energy at this point, as a useful work doing thing, fixture in their society, piece of infrastructure, there simply would have been a lot more of them. And then there's also the question of why would they stop? So electricity. Oh yeah, and then also there is a video that I'm going to link in the show description or show notes, depending on which venue you choose to watch this. There's a video on like it was basically my source for everything on the Baghdad battery. There's a scholar who spent like the majority of their career studying like Iraq and like the ancient Parthian Empire, which also brings me to my point that the term Baghdad battery is leading. It leads you to believe something like about the purpose of this implement. However, a more accurate term would be the Parthian jars, because they were found, like they were found to come from the ancient Parthian Empire, which was, I don't know, like 300 BC or something like that. I may have written it down, but hey, yeah. the going study, I mean, the idea presented by him in the video is that, so like the three unrelated jars, the ones without the iron rods in them, because only one had the iron rod in them. Those were spell jars. So like the thing is that like these jars also contain papyrus, and traces of papyrus, and also some had traces of acid. And so like the whole idea of like, oh, it was used to preserve the papyrus kind of falls a little dead. Rather, the theory that he presents is that they were spell jars. And there's a whole lot of tongue-in-cheek things about like the whole like, oh, it was for a ritual, it was for ceremony. However, this one also does have like some interesting like backing to it. Like,
I mean, like electricity for a long time was kind of magical. Like it's like this weird like thing. So if you had something that's like remotely, like if you have things that you associate with electricity, I can imagine putting them together if you discovered this and
so
and
yeah,
putting like texts with it and then being like, that's my thing.
it's the funny feeling jar that when you touch it, you see God.
Yeah.
Hey, I mean, there are techno/digital witches, so that's like a modern brand of
Honestly,
paganism.
I feel that aesthetic so fucking much.
It makes sense, and yet again, we always just reinvent everything always.
Reinventing
I mean,
paganism for the 7,000th time.
yeah, I feel like if you don't have VR headsets, it makes sense to electrocute yourself with a battery.
Yeah.
Oh, wait, hold on. What I feel like we're at step 4 of the thought process here. Can you clue me back in on the
Yeah.
escalation?
Oh, I am
Jelly's,
signing up to fucking Zuckerberg's metaverse so that I can see God.
yeah. Jelly said that it's the funny jar that when you touch it, you see God, and then obviously our modern God is the egregore of capitalism that we all have collectively conjured as a beast that now walks the earth and rules everything.
Right.
And we access this God by going into the metaverse and working our jobs at the like various businesses that now exist in between all of the available real estate owned by marketing companies. And if you rewind that in time back to ye olde pre-metaverse, pre-VR, early human history, how do you see God? What's the VR of the day? Touching the jar. So, lacking a capitalism or a VR headset, all they had was mild self-harm jar.
Thank you for walking me through
Penance.
that step by step.
So electricity stayed more or less an obscure intellectual curiosity until around 1600, when English scientist William Gilbert, oh God, I almost said that Frenchly.
I heard.
William
I was
Gilbert.
about to. I need you to know I was locked in when I heard that hefty back of the mouth G start.
What's it called? The Francicization of the name William is a Guillaume. So Guillaume, but yeah, just a fun fact. It's a bit of a stretch
Polish
connection to make.
pronunciation. Fake Polish pronunciation of William is William. So,
Y'all, we gotta keep moving.
I'm
So
sorry.
yeah, English scientist William Gilbert coined the term electricus, meaning like amber, in 1600. However, I do also like, I went down the rabbit hole of like, wait a second. So if we have records of it, around the Middle East, then what did they call it? And turns out the term for electricity is kind of like a pan-Arab like cognate
Yes.
as well. Loan word from the Persian. So the Persian word just meant amber. Then it got loaned into Arabic, where it meant like the phenomenon caused by like amber being rubbed with something. And I don't have
Mhm.
time scales on this phenomenon. However, yeah, God damn it. What was the word? Kahraba. I think that was it. But yeah. Uh, yeah, I didn't have as much time to like research that side of it because I can
Mhm.
only read very basic Arabic. So
How dare you?
yeah,
Wow, I'm so
electricity
disappointed.
stayed more or less
Astaghfirullah.
on the on you have to pass. He is a former Muslim.
Mhm.
That
Just
does not. No, I think that it actually means by definition I no longer have the pants to say astaghfirullah. Like,
oh damn.
I don't even know what that means. I'm no part of this entire conversation.
it's okay. We gotta keep
It's
rolling.
yeah. So stayed more or less intellectual curiosity, uh, but the real thing that like we had to get through in the beginning of this is that Ben Franklin did not invent electricity. Static electricity was already a well-known phenomenon
Hmm.
that had been used
He observed
to
it in France.
yeah, that had been used to do any manner of like weird and interesting things.
Hmm.
And so no, Ben Franklin did not discover electricity. He arguably did something far more important for like our development as a species. He used it to pull some pretty sick pranks.
Hmm.
So, Ben
I thought you were gonna say
Franklin,
he used it to invent America.
well, he kind of did. But yeah, we'll get to that. So, Ben Franklin had been, to a science entertainment show in I believe it was London, and became obsessed with the phenomenon that had already swept over Europe because like people were doing like all over like parlor shows or like street shows of like different like electrical shocks and electrical implements and like how we can like get it to like move between people and whatever such that like the last person at the end feels the connection or whatever. And ever since, he spent basically all of his time electrocuting every house guest that came into his home. Mind you, we are entirely dealing with static electricity at this point, so nobody was in any kind of real mortal danger, asterisk. Uh, so he had a setup where he would isolate two people from the ground. Oh, I suppose I should go next slide. Do I have? Yeah.
Mm.
So oh damn, I'm 2 slides behind. But yeah, he had a setup where he would like isolate two people from the ground, give one of them a Leyden jar, which is what you see, down in the bottom left. It's basically like an early capacitor.
Mm.
This was the Leyden jar is actually kind of like what took electricity from like idle like curiosity into like studied phenomenon because it allowed a person to store and disperse large amounts of electrical charge at will. So like long story short, if you like do the whole like amber thing where like you find like one thing that's really electron hungry and you want one thing that's you know really loose with its electrons and you like rub them together and you get that charge, you can actually just like keep dumping it into the metal rod and then you can disperse it all at once by connecting the foil around the outside to the metal rod on the inside. And so yeah, that just
Mm.
allowed for the like storage of electrical charges for the purpose of observation.
Mm.
And so yeah, he had this setup where one person would like hold the other side of one of the jars. One person would hold the jar, and then one person would hold like a wire attached to the metal rod, and so like they're both like isolated from like the other part, and then he would like ask them to kiss, as you see in the top right,
Mm-hmm.
and they would get a electrical shock.
Hot.
Now I'll also say that like it didn't have to be a kiss. Like they could have just like touched their free hands together or whatever. But hey,
Mm.
18th century voyeurism expressed itself in weird ways. Then we have like a small spider that he made out of cork and lead filaments that he would like charge and make it move and like
Mm.
scare his guests. And then finally, we have a game that he devised called Treason. He had a picture of King George because this was like pre-revolutionary United States,
Mhm.
13 colonies shit. And so like he had a picture of King George III with a detachable crown, a detachable metal crown. And the crown was electrified so that anybody who would try to remove the crown would get an electric shock. And also, just a side note, like you can get like some pretty big charges like inside of a Leyden jar. Like,
This is where it starts getting dangerous.
yeah, like modern ones can like, I mean, this is still a very simple implement, but like, yeah, just like the amount of charge that you can like deposit in one is like, you know, like in the like tens of thousands of volts, which, is just fun and interesting. But yeah, like I have no idea how he managed to work out successive uh successive shocks. Like all I could think of was like with his technology, just like connecting a whole bunch of Leyden jars to the crown, but then like whoever touches it is really getting fucking fried. Wait, could he have done it in parallel? Eh,
Maybe.
so yeah, this displays a great deal of creativity and ingenuity. However, these were mere byproducts of his meticulous research. And now is a good time to talk about the kite. So, for the benefit of anybody who may not have known, here is how lightning works. Top left. All right, so inside of storm clouds, you have a mixture of ice crystals getting blown upwards by the wind and water droplets falling under their own weight. And as these pass by each other, triboelectric effect happens, and the water droplets steal electrons off of the ice crystals. This results in the cloud having a net negative charge at the bottom and a positive charge on top, because the water's taking the electrons and going down. So the bottom of the cloud having a large concentration of electrons means that the ground becomes positive by comparison, as there is no such concentration of electrons. Now, when you have an imbalance of stuff, the universe tends to want to balance that stuff out. And so if the charge grows large enough, then it will send a beam of hot ionized gas and lightning down to the ground in order to balance out these electrons. And it doesn't even necessarily have to be between a cloud and the ground. It can happen between two different clouds in a phenomenon known as intercloud lightning. There's another term for it that I'm forgetting, but yeah, we'll go with intercloud lightning. And cloud to cloud, CC lightning. And so to be clear, the electrons build up at the bottom of clouds, and they'll take any path they can get to the most accessible space with fewer electrons. And that's why lightning happens. And now we know that, in our infinite knowledge of the modern era, however, at the time, like Ben Franklin, would have been active, lightning was perceived as an act of God, perhaps even divine wrath. After all, lightning tended to strike churches the most, which people turned to interpret as a connection between lightning and the divine. But Ben had a different hypothesis. he believed that lightning was the exact same thing as the electricity that he had been toying with and studying. And much like the static charge that he had been observing, lightning will seek out the closest object, i.e., tallest object in town, which always happened to be a church. And now he just had to figure out a way to go about testing this hypothesis. So when Ben Franklin flew his kite on that storied evening, his kite didn't get struck by lightning. Like that just never happened. That almost certainly would have killed him.
Yeah.
What actually happened was he flew his kite on a string made of nice water absorbing hemp. And the part that he held was made of silk. Now, silk is a very poor conductor, and this isolated him from the direct path that the electrons would want to take to ground. And so, when these big menacing clouds started rolling in, what he did was he flew his kite, and this basically provided a chain, a pathway for those electrons up in the bottom of the cloud to travel through the water-soaked kite line down to a key that he had tied onto the other end. And he also tied like a silk line to the key that he held. And so like he flew his kite, from under a like awning or like inside a building or whatever, it doesn't matter. So he flew his kite from the comfort of like somewhere dry. And as he like held the kite string next to his hand and, he was observing the key, he could like kind of like put his knuckle up against it and like get little electrical shocks. Lightning was not striking him. However, by connecting himself to the, via the ground to the bottom of the cloud, he's now experiencing that like, oh, yes, these are the static shocks, just smaller. And then when they build up, we get lightning. So Ben Franklin proved that lightning was just a bigger manifestation of the phenomenon of electricity that had taken over Britain. Lightning was electric, like amber.
He made the connection. But he's putting the pieces together.
Yeah. And this is what rocketed him into superstar scientist status. Like, that is the reason why, like, we, like, really know who Ben Franklin is today. Like, that, it was that discovery that, like, got him to, like, fame and clout, that got him named as, like, Minister Plenipotentiary to France, where, like, he just lived in France, just hanging out with ambassadors, advocating for your American cause, bagging French MILFs, possibly, just having a grand old time.
Was he really a plenipotentiary?
He was Minister Plenipotentiary to France, yes.
Oh, damn, that's a fancy word. Like I only learned recently, and then I told you about it, and then
Yeah.
I know like mere exposure.
What's it, Bader-Meinhof phenomenon? Where it's
exactly.
The second you learn about something, it
I've
is
seen
the
it everywhere.
Bader-Meinhof chain.
Yeah, for anybody who
like-
doesn't know what a plenipotentiary is, it's a figure who is sent to like negotiate on behalf of a state or a sovereign, with the full authority of that sovereign. So, like, say a president sends like one of the ambassadors to like, you're a plenipotentiary now. You can sign anything, you can do anything. You do not have to answer to democracy or anything. You can just like you have the full power of the. I give you my blessing to make the decision when you get there. Quite rare these days. You don't really see it anymore. But back before the internet, when there was no way to check in with the forces back home, and you had to make a long distance, like big thing. Yeah, they would bestow upon you the power of plenipotentiary.
It's a common theme in the Haitian Revolution that like any news traveling like between like France and Haiti of like what was going on during the revolution, like it took a full like 4 months round trip for like them to find out like, okay, revolution started. You know, okay, 2 months after that, like we find out and we're like, okay, we got to fucking deal with this. This revolution started 2 months ago. And so now they got to like, formulate a response and then send a team back to like, administer the response. And by then the revolution has been going on for 4 months. And so, yeah, it's a whole lot of like that kind of shit.
Yeah, and now we
Uh,
have WhatsApp.
who needs plenipotentiaries when you can get like fucking like you could get someone sending you way too many messages. If anything, you could be like in the middle of the meeting, like yeah, I'll let you know in a minute. Yeah, so far they're planning to nuke us. Yeah. I'll check in a minute. Smiley face.
I mean, yeah, if you had more plenipotentiaries, you'd probably have like fewer like major news columnists being added to signal groups.
Yeah. Or maybe you have more like Donald Trump accidentally names his barber a plenipotentiary to like Barbados.
God.
Okay, so we're gonna fast forward a little bit, and we're gonna talk about the War of the Currents. So, Ben Franklin, he was like late 18th century, which would have been like 1700s, and so now we're just gonna skip the century of that was mostly dominated by steam, up to the 1900. Wait, yeah, the late 1800s, the War of the Currents. So yeah, late 1800. So, what is the difference between AC and DC power?
Um,
What you want to go for?
part of me wants to attempt it, but then the other part of me is currently dating someone who's training to become an electrician, and this answer, if wrong, would be held against me forever and ever. So
We all have skin in the
maybe
game, yeah.
next time.
Yeah.
All right.
The best of my guess from like top of my head, DC or direct current is just like a continuous stream of like the one thing alternating.
Yeah.
When you draw like the sine wave of it, it will go kind of positive, negative. Like it's just kind of like yeah. You're drawing the picture. Ace, I can't remember the benefits of each though. Actually, I am drawing a blank on that. But that's just like,
Okay.
so they're basically
so,
just two alternatives to like delivering power. And,
yeah.
like the nature of the wiring.
Because can't you also alternate them for something to happen? I know that's vague.
Yeah. So yeah. You know what? I think I know what you're talking about, and I'll bring it up during the whole Tesla debate. So basically so I'll give my like trade electrician explanation is like DC, you send shit out and then you get shit back. Now you're sending electrons. Now with AC power, instead of actually sending the electrons from one place to another, you wave a magnet in front of the metal really quickly. And then what happens is like the magnetic field pulls on the electrons, and then it pulls on them in the other direction when you reach the other side of your stroke. And so what ends up happening is it ends up going like between like as far as like hard as it can pull in one direction, and then as hard as it can pull in the other direction, and then you just keep going like that. And so that's AC. Now I'll explain more on. I'll just leave that on and explain more when we get to Tesla. So, or at least like what benefits and disadvantages of AC and whatever.
Yeah, that's reasonable.
So Thomas Edison, you see, was using direct current to like transmit power to like local businesses and all that. Now, the thing about direct current is that it kind of has a short range. Like, his plants were only realistically able to get electricity out to like maybe a half-mile range, which means that like his power companies could only exist in cities in order to be profitable. So yeah, there was kind of a big problem kind of inherent to his business model. All right, so yeah, the drawback of alternating current is that, so like basically like the difference between like direct current and alternating current for the purpose of electricity, transmission is like instead of like pumping it like water, now you just like wiggle the electrons really hard, and then like because the electrons are now moving, like you basically have like a pressurized line where electrons are able to like flow out into your home, and then just everybody like taps into it. However, like this means that you have to like charge that line to a really massive voltage so that like you have enough water pressure for everybody's homes, and everybody just like just has their own like pressure reducer line into the like the house water or electric. You know what I'm saying? Like these are transformers in practice.
Yeah, step down transformer, or it's the right direction.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, with that system of just like jiggling everything really hard instead of actually trying to send stuff places, like you're not sending the electrons, you're sending the motion of the electrons. So, yeah, just that allowed you to like send electricity to a lot further places. And so, yeah, establishing plants in rural areas was thoroughly disincentivized because Edison had like a strong hold on like power throughout the nation, or at least on the eastern seaboard, and
Could
a
you imagine an
enterprising.
alternate timeline? Sorry, could you imagine an alternate timeline where Edison's alternate current, Edison's DC current, like just caught on as the main thing, and only cities had power? Like, because that would basically
Yeah,
be like you probably would not have suburbia. You wouldn't have like a lot of like would radio have caught on? Would radio the way we do it now have caught on, or would you just have like short wave like like how like it's interesting to think how different the entire society would be if we restricted power to just like the middle of cities.
Mm. Music would be weird.
Yeah. I mean, and obviously, like a lot of things like trains and such, like we'd still be using steam in many places, probably.
Yeah.
honestly,
We s-
that aesthetic would be kind of sick.
Yo, steampunk.
Selectively industrialized.
I need to bring the vibes back, yo. We used to have class.
And so, yeah, one day, a enterprising young Edison employee happened to, like realize this fact that, like, wait a second, if we switch to AC power, like, we get like you'd have like a massive boost in like the clientele that you could reach. However, Edison, like one of his downfalls is that like he was committed to this shit. He was not changing his business model for nothing. And can anybody possibly guess the name of this former Edison employee?
Elon Musk.
Elongated Tesla
Muskrat.
Cyber.
Tony
Yeah,
Stark. That's the answer.
Mr. Truck.
Yeah,
I believe that's his
it was the
moniker.
founder. It was the founder of Tesla, Elon Musk.
There we go. Easy W. Yeah, no. Nikola Tesla, famous pigeon enthusiast.
Yeah, famous pigeon enthusiast. Also,
Oh, jeez.
I the person you see in the bottom left is Lewis
Hmm.
Latimer, and I have to bring him up in any time that I mention Edison because Thomas Edison is a bitch, and like he rushed his design to patent just so that he could be the first one with a patent on record. However, a black inventor came after him in this, and like actually did the work necessary to create like a longer lasting filament. And the story of Lewis Latimer is be, like beyond interesting in itself. Like started out working in a patent office and just like learned patent law through like just like sitting there and like reading everything he could. He eventually taught himself French, moved to France. Like he's an interesting character. But yeah, I'll actually leave a you know what, are we gonna do a Lewis Latimer episode? You know what, maybe we should.
Hmm.
But yeah, I feel contractually obligated every time I mention Edison to mention Lewis Latimer. Uh, so basically, yeah, Tesla went out on his own and was like, I'm gonna make this work. And like the common convention of the time, like the common sense thing is that like AC is more dangerous than DC. Like it's the kind of
Okay.
current that kills you.
I remember that
And
in the
Mm.
movie about it. I think it's The War of the Currents, which I think it's
yeah,
Benedict Cumberbatch play
yeah, he played
Edison, if I'm not
Edison.
wrong. Yeah. And they do a
Oh,
demonstration where they just like liquefy a horse with AC just to be like, you
oh
see?
my God.
Oh, I actually forgot about that. Not that incident in particular, the incident of Ben Franklin trying to cook a Thanksgiving dinner with electricity and ended up just kind of electrocuting himself and having raw turkey for Thanksgiving. Uh,
Oh.
but
Don't eat raw
Okay.
turkey. That's not good for you.
Dudes rock.
dude's
Dude's rock
rock.
shit. Yeah.
So Edison was all in on DC power delivery, and he would do everything within his power to make sure that Tesla never got off the ground. So he launched a propaganda campaign against AC power. And that's where you see stuff like, oh, wait, intro to Tesla, da 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 da. And that's where you start seeing stuff like,
Melting a
you,
horse.
yeah, what you see on the right is Topsy the elephant. Basically, I don't know if they had death row for elephants, but or if this was just like a like an
A
oppressed
one
African
off.
element, yanked off the street by the state, and you know a
Were
brother
there
that
no
we need to show
better
solidarity to.
options? Like we had no other way to tell you this is really dangerous than
It's the
like,
biggest
hey,
thing we can think
have you
of.
ever
Well,
wondered?
well, well. Here's the thing. This was not a PSA of like, no, out of an abundance of caution, we're legitimately concerned. No, this was propaganda. So, look, it kills an elephant. Look how big an elephant is. So this is fear mongering,
Oh my
and
God.
so they killed the elephant purely for spectacle. Because it was a big animal.
And also designed to be spectacle, the electric chair. So
Mm.
over on the
Huh.
left, you see the electric chair. Thomas
Mm.
Edison is credited with, the invention of the first electric chair. And can you guess what power delivery system it used?
Alternate,
Yeah, it was alternating current. And
alternating
so, like,
current.
he really needed to cement in the public's mind that AC was the death current. And so he basically just, figured out a way to, run a couple 10,000s of volts through a person who was, slated for execution. I don't believe in the death penalty, just to be clear.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, slated for execution. And it was long and horrific. And
Yeah.
that is exactly what Edison wanted. Like, newspapers the next day said they really should have just hanged him.
I mean, and that follows even like today with most executions like ever carried out and still carried out are
It's like breaking
done.
at the wheel type shit.
But what I'm saying, but even today, like even if we do like lethal injection or like anything, that is not done for any sort of like it doesn't benefit anyone. It has no provable. Oh, this reduces harm. It all it achieves is a mild catharsis for a portion of the population that yearn for revenge, and to that, it's always a spectacle of suffering and like a violent act to just like make you feel better about some perceived slight. And in many cases, obviously we have all the tragedies of people who've been executed and then found innocent. So it's like it's just a huge failure of a society.
I wonder if the way to convince Americans to become less car centric is to just like really go ham with like a Ford F-150 and a prison population. I'm not saying we should do this. I'm saying like we
All
seem
you
to
need.
only be to respond to horrific levels of carnage to accept that a thing
I think
might
unfortunately
have.
you might
Have
be
you ever been
accidentally
convicted of? Have you ever been convicted of high treason? That's what it's like to drive a Ford F-150.
God.
But I think you might accidentally be inventing the ending to Idiocracy, where they put not sure in the
Oh, yeah.
gladiatorial arena with the monster truck,
With the fucking truck.
and they executed one a monster truck, and everyone thinks it's badass. So
Yeah, actually, that might be great marketing for a Ford F-150.
yeah, I think America might be too post morals to use a F-150 to crush people to death until they feel bad about it. They might accidentally just start enjoying it.
Yeah. Yeah, we are, like, not that many degrees away from being like, y'all ever consider death games?
We are not well.
Right? Like, because we keep reinventing the Torment Nexus from the book Don't Invent the Torment Nexus,
Yeah.
right? And so it's
Like,
like, what if someone was like, hey, like, that era where we put like so many teenagers in science fiction and strange life or death scenarios where they have to choose in ways that are also deeper metaphor at the hands of an uncaring society. Wouldn't that be kind of funny, as like a bit?
Check up on your American friends, everybody.
Yeah. I think I don't think he's gonna do it during this term, but during like his third, definitely his fourth term, I think Trump is probably going to like make it so that like the official sport of the president, the UFC, when he and his vice president Dana White by that point, will like legalize
I'm saying that's his
UFC
wife.
to the death.
Don't talk about Dana like that. That is his wife.
They will have UFC fights to the death. And I feel like I feel
It's
like,
like
that's the peak moment. That's when America hits like it's most. It's most.
you know
America.
what? I think in addition to that, I think we're gonna. It'll also become a pathway to legal citizenship.
Yeah. If you kill your way through 15 opponents in the UFC, you get to be a United States citizen and work at the IHOP.
Guys, I really hate to break it in this
Well,
way.
actually, by
'cause
that point, it'll be the end hop.
Right. I hate because
We don't do international around here.
Remember when they were a burger joint? Neither do I. I think I'm accidentally recreating a set of situations that is just like one step removed from military recruitment strategy.
Oh, yeah, yeah, that's fair. Kill your way to a citizenship and all your rights. Yeah, that's just a poverty test
Yeah,
again, right?
yeah, yeah.
You want healthcare? Kill this guy.
Okay, so yeah, that is so we all know how the story of like the War of the Currents ended because like so like what ended up happening is Tesla like ended up like finding that like hey, stealing other people's idea is a good thing. And so he was like, "Hey, somebody else invented a transformer." So instead of having, like the high pressure systems, in everybody's home, I could just like create like these intermittent steps where like this part handles, the low voltage, this part handles the medium voltage, and this part handles like high voltage transmission across like different parts of the rural landscape. And so it's like the simply the ability to reach like more people won him out in the end for like the war for conventions of like electrical current. And so honestly, that's about it for the history of electricity that I
Oh,
want to
nice.
cover today.
So
Before we,
part
because
two,
yeah,
the
like
light switch.
basic, honestly, yeah, like transistors, electrical switches, relays. Once we
Mhm.
start learning, like that next one is going to be like when we start learning like the essence of what electricity is and how it can be manipulated. And that's going to like, take us from like, like Maxwell
Mhm.
and into modern day.
Hug.
Mm.
Math.
I get to reach deep into my brain and try to remember my circuit knowledge if I have any left in there.
All I remember is the one law named after meditation. Ohm's law. Om.
I'm gonna kill you in real life.
I
I
hope we're
appreciate
not
that.
I hope we're not doing like a cultural appropriation when we do that.
Yeah, I hope so too. We're
Definitely
mocking,
are.
we're mocking the commodification of the practice in American culture. We're actually belittling white American culture when we do that. We're not actually, of course, it's not representative of the entire practice of meditation, but instead the oprahification of it on television for white
Yeah.
women. Okay, but there we go. I've now super woked it from the left, and now it's actually progressive that we made that joke.
Wow.
This
Yeah, you're welcome.
like
I can
hey,
sleep well at night now.
this is Esotechnica, your woke excellence podcast to lead you into infinity. Next episode is on the water car. Any
Yeah.
anybody got anything they want to plug?
I got my stream, and I guess my YouTube now, and I guess this podcast. So if you've liked this podcast, I recommend you listen to it. But also, I'm on Twitch, Celticness, and YouTube, Celticness, for like video essays, which are entirely unrelated to anything here, because I contain multiplicities.
Jay.
We love to see it. I don't have anything online currently, and so I have nothing to plug. If you see the things that are online that are related to me, that are probably definitely me, yes, all of those projects are dead. Don't
Oh,
ask me about it. It's fine. Not in a bad way. They're dead in the sense of like, when you just
complete.
sort of like gotta
They
tuck the
happen.
baby in. It happened and it was good. I might start a Substack. We're gonna see what happens.
W.
Nice. And yeah, I do stuff on the internet also as well. Have a
Mm-hmm.
couple YouTube videos that I'm really psyched about. New editing style, gonna look super clean, super crisp. Yeah, jelly like jam. That's DJELI like jam. Uh, Both on YouTube and Twitch. Anybody else?
Okay.
Anybody got anything interesting to play us out on?
At some point in this podcast recording, I did start and finish folding my laundry, and I'm gonna leave it up to y'all to figure out when that happened.
Reasonable.
Hey, we including a call to action to rewatch the podcast.
There you go.
This is pure like social engineering.
We're just body doubling now.
Leave your guess in the comments of like with timestamps of when you think the laundry folding took place.
And how long do you think it takes me to fold an average basket size of laundry? Your answer will not be correct.
Also, if you have any expertise in electricity and you're not happy with anything we said, L, you studied electricity.
I mean, I'm a trade electrician, so I feel pretty confident standing on my takes.
If you're my
Yeah,
girlfriend,
I also
who
did
is-
electromag for multiple years in like uni, so like I'm vaguely like, you know. But
Yeah. I would say if you're my girlfriend who is studying electrical stuff and also studied physics and
Oh, J
also
Polls.
pre-engineering, we anyway, don't listen to this one. You didn't listen to this one. It's fine. I knew so many things, I promise.
awesome.
Good night.
Yeah, good night. Actually, I will say, on an interesting possible last point, there is a theory that there's only one electron and we all share it, and it just reaches the end of time and then loops back and it starts again and then just goes again. So like it's just one electron looping endlessly around the universe, performing every other electron's job eventually. And so, like,
I suppose, yeah, every electron is born in the same moment that it dies, and so it's just kind of like constantly.
it's one buzz, yeah, like one temporally like violating electron.
Yeah,
I'm
this
happy
one
to be
guy who did a lot of
traversing
things,
the
who led a
universe with you.
really interesting life. What'd you say, Jay?
Oh, I said that. Well, at least I'm very happy to be traversing the entirety of the universe in an endless loop with you.
Oh, W.
The
W.
Esso Technica, the podcast that takes you on an endless loop throughout the universe. We hope
We call that
you can-
universe the Torment Nexus.
We hope that this bundle of electrons can accompany you on wherever it is that you find your podcasts. Thank you, everybody, and good night.